all my favorite YouTube friends. I am super psyched to be here with our special guest, Lisa Michaud. Lisa, hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
We just finished recording a fantastic podcast where we dove into all things like entrepreneurship and why we have to change our mindset from sprint to marathon, or what it means to be solo parenting during a pandemic while also trying to build a business, or the fact that we are not self-made as entrepreneurs, but it really does take a village and a community to create anything and to get to where we want to get to. And also, we even talked about the importance of following your light and not just doing the drudgery work because you think you should, or it will somehow make you profitable. We covered a lot of ground, Lisa.
We talked about a lot of stuff. It was a great conversation. I feel like we still could have keep going all day long.
We'll have to come back for like a part 2 in a few months. Like this is going to have to happen. Even when we were recording, you were like, wait, because I was like, all right, let's wrap us up. And you're like, what? We're done? Hang on, what?
And I was like, we're just getting started. We're having so much fun. So yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Go listen to it. Lindsay asked amazing questions as always, and brings her own wisdom. It's so good.
And you brought incredible wisdom. It was fantastic. So I've got the link below for folks that are wanting to go listen to the podcast after, but hang out here for a moment because we are going to dive into some things a little bit more deeper. And Lisa's got some tips for you. But for folks that haven't met Lisa yet, Lisa, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do, what you're all about?
Yeah. So I'm Lisa and I am a recovering, overachieving, people-pleasing perfectionist. And that I'm recovering is like in recovery still. I'm still all of those things. So I just want to say, I don't have everything figured out. I understand what it's like to be all those things, to want everything to be perfect, to try and do all of the things and to make sure that everything is okay for everybody else first before you. Yeah. And so I bring that lens, that experience, that real life to what I do. And I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm the host of Golden Girls podcast. My journey really started a couple years ago with a health scare. And when I faced the realization of I only had a year or two left to live, I realized that there was a lot of things in my life that I wanted to do that I wasn't even giving myself permission to want. And so obviously being faced with a health scare, it was the wake-up call that I needed. And I'm lucky to be healthy, but I'm really glad I had that scare. It woke me up and made me realize, holy crap, I only got one life. What the heck am I doing? Trying to do all these things for everybody else, or telling myself I can't do this, or just making it just doing the things I thought other people expected of me as opposed to what I really wanted to. And so that's really what brought me to creating my business. That's what brought me to, every day getting to wake up in Vancouver, which was my dream. And that one of the first ones that I made happen. And now I love to help other people do that as well with their lives.
I love it. And now I know that we don't have all the time in the world, but you did not do that story justice because there was so much because I know your story, you crammed in there, but your story is so incredible because it wasn't just a health scare. It was your life is over scare. What have I done with my life? Why am I not doing what I really want to do? And that is extreme, but it did force you, like you said, wake you up to, I want to be in Vancouver. I want to be doing this. I want to be doing that, and really making drastic change. And I think that it is something that we don't have to wait until we have an end of life scare to be able to do. What we're still going to get into what I want to talk about, but first, what advice do you have for people who are just sitting and waiting and not living the life of their dreams, not doing what they want to do? How can they avoid getting to the end of their life and feeling what you felt?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's my biggest hope is that people don't wait because we wait till a close family member dies, if it's not us, or a pandemic. I mean, let's be honest, the pandemic has shaken us all up, right? Or a job loss. But I think what's important is to really understand and just be honest with yourself about what you really want. Yeah. And at the same time, also write out all the fears that are coming up. So it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I know I'm afraid of this, or what if I don't have money, or what if I end up under a bridge, or what if this person doesn't like me anymore, or what if my parents don't understand why I've done this, or whatever those thoughts are. But what I notice is that we are like a cassette tape. I don't know if you guys remember cassette tapes, but they were like these little things that played music or played sound. And our brains.
I'm afraid if there's people on this that don't know what a cassette tape is, because are we that old?
We're that old. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we are. But like our brains are like that. They're like the cassette tape that just keeps playing, playing, playing. And it's playing if you are where I was and there's something that you want to do, but you're not giving yourself permission to do it. You're like saying one day, maybe when I'm ready, then right now it's playing that narrative of your fears and it's playing the reasons why you can't, which is what I did. I played all the reasons why I couldn't, for example, live in Vancouver. My tape was playing, your job isn't here. It isn't there, I guess. Your house isn't there. You have mortgages. You have a real job. So does your husband. Your husband's a small town boy. But what are you going to do with the quad? Vancouver's so expensive. These are the tapes that are playing. This is the thing that was the quad. Yes. In case you're wondering what happened to the quad, I'll tell you what happened with the quad. But these are all the reasons why I could not live in the city. And chances are there's a tape that you're playing as well about what it means to maybe go out and start a business, what it means to change your business, what it means to give up a successful business, what it means to live in a different place, to become a digital nomad or not become a digital nomad, all the things that you may want. There's a story of why you're telling yourself that's keeping you where you are, which is what was happening to me. And it wasn't until I actually, first of all, was like, oh, this is what I want. And then was able to step back and listen to all the lists of reasons and literally write it out. I highly encourage you to do that. Write it out, get it off the tape that gets it off of replay, puts it on the page so you can see what you're actually saying. Then you can start to look at that and say, okay, now how is it possible? How is this thing that I want? How is that possible? And yes, it may take time. Yes, it's probably going to be dang scary. Yes, your parents may think you're wild for just getting married, having great jobs and quitting and selling everything and going somewhere else, which is what our parents thought. And yes, you may have to get a parking stall that fits your quad in downtown Vancouver, which is also what we had to do. But that only came when I was able to be like, well, how is this possible? Oh, it's just possible if we find the right parking stall, right? That sounds so silly, but that literally, there was that kind of thing that was holding me back.
Yeah.
And I know for all of us, there's those kinds of thoughts in our minds as well that hold us back from doing what we really want to do. And that's what I want to help. I hope everybody listening, you're able to at least understand that, and then you can move through it.
Listening to you and listening to the whole quad thing, because I know the quad, and for folks that don't know what a quad is, explain what a quad is.
ATV is another thing. It's like a four-wheeled, so we used to live in a small town up in northern Canada where we could literally take our ATV or our quad out the backyard and we would go up there and we'd go out there with friends. Yeah. And I mean, it's just not something you see in downtown Vancouver ever, except for when we're rolling in and out of town.
And so it's funny because this quad story, and we laugh about it now because you think I wasn't going to go live my dreams because I was worried about my quad and where I'd park my quad, and I think about my own dreams, and for me, I've always wanted to travel. I've wanted to live on the beaches of the world. This is what I've wanted to do forever, and somewhere, especially in my business, that got lost. Like I got lost in the minutia and in feeling cemented in where I was and had all these ridiculous excuses for why I couldn't live it. I can't leave my parents need my support, or, I'll lose my friends and then I'll be all alone in the world, or just like all these little things, to something as silly as what will I do with my stuff, and I always ask myself, so if I'm at the end of my life, what will I be more happy about, that I kept my things or that I traveled the world, right? And yes, right. And so it's this question of, you don't have to wait for something major to make you face this. Really go fast forward into your life and go, what will I be really happy about, and what will matter and what won't matter? And I'm at a point now where it's like, whoa, my dreams are right here. They're what I've been working for are right here. As soon as this pandemic's over, watch out, world. I'm coming for you, right? It's right here. And so, yeah, don't wait. Like, don't wait and write down those excuses and realize how stupid they are. A lot of them are, or how fixable.
Yeah, right? I was going to say that's the other part of it too, is that then you're like, okay, some of them are just silly and we just need to rewrite the script on that. And some of them are like, oh no, that's real. Like I actually do need to figure out, but so then like, what are we do we sell the quad? Do we find a parking stall with your stuff? Do you sell it all? Do you have somewhere you could store it? Could you find a storage unit? Like what, do you ship it? Do you bring it with you? Like who knows? Maybe you travel with 80 pieces of suitcase. Like maybe that's you, but some of the things, it just means that there's something for you to solve. And that's the thing, that when it's just playing on the tape in your head, you can't tell the difference between which ones are the ones that are silly, doesn't make sense, would slap my friend silly if they said that, versus the things that actually just need to get addressed and that you can that are figure outable and that you can figure out how it's possible and what you want to do. But when it's in the tape, it's all muddled up. It's like a mix. It's like a really bad mixtape. Also, if you don't know what that is, go Google that. Good times. But it's like a really bad mixtape, and it's about getting it out on paper, getting it out of your head, and being able to separate between those two things. So I'm glad that you said that. And you gave me goosebumps there hearing, like, what would I rather do? That's such a great question. At the end of my life, what would I rather have? The stuff or the experiences?
Yeah. It's so important. It's so important. So as we switch gears a little bit, because I really want to talk about this theme that you brought up in the podcast, which is that, you know, we need to ease up on ourselves and stop looking at entrepreneurship as a sprint and buying into the pressure that is very much out there in the world, that everything should happen fast and quickly and at great sacrifice for mental and physical health or relationships, and how we get out of this sprint mentality and look at look at it as a marathon. So I know you've got some tips for us, but first, why don't you explain your perspective on that?
Yeah. So what I see is that we don't understand the difference between the things that we need to sprint through and the things that we need to be persistent and consistent on for long periods of time. So the difference between a short, intense period of time, that's a sprint, and a marathon, that means consistent, persistent effort over a sustained period of time. And there's different things that fit into both of those categories in life. You know, I mentioned this on the podcast too, like parenting. Newborn phase is a sprint. You're up all the time. You're figuring out breastfeeding. You're figuring out how to get this kid to sleep. You're figuring out all these new things, all the gear, car seats, all the stuff. It's a sprint. It's a very intense sprint. And parenthood in general is a marathon. Like you can't just you can't burn out because the kid keeps coming up, waking up every day. Like they're still there. So that's an example of a difference. In a business, what that looks like is, you know, you have busy seasons. For example, maybe you're in retail and certain holidays are really big. If you're a floral shop, you're like Mother's Day is going to be very busy. Valentine's Day is going to be very busy. That's going to be a sprint. And so maybe you work longer days or longer hours when those seasons are. You know, I talked to a woman that has the company called Poodoos, and they were on Oprah's Favorite Things. And you can imagine,
what are those?
Poodoos. Okay, they're slipper socks. Hold on, I'm going to show you my Poodoos because they're right here.
It's very exciting.
This is so not what we had planned, but here we go. Poodoos.
We're doing it.
Slipper socks.
Oh.
And they're so comfortable, and they have the grippies on.
Yep.
And this is how much I've worn my Poodoos. I clearly need to get another pair because I've worn them right through because I love them. They're amazing. Yes. And they were on Oprah's Favorite Things. And I can't believe I can't remember the name of this amazing entrepreneur, but we'll have to give her a shout out. But I heard her speak, and she was sharing about how, like, the couple months leading up to that, you know, it was like their whole family, like the kids are working, the grandparents are working, the aunts, everybody in the community is working to get ready for Oprah's Favorite Things and for this holiday season to take advantage of that. And the things that you would do in a sprint are so different than what you would do in a marathon, right? And that's, I think, like the big thing is to understand that difference. Yeah. And so what I would say for, you know, obviously tip number one is to figure out which one you're in.
Yeah.
And how you do that is by asking yourself a couple questions, you know, how do I feel? Do I feel like I'm just like, I don't know how to explain that in words.
I can put that into words for you. You know, do I feel like I'm overwhelmed, a lot on my plate, a never-ending to-do list?
Yes. Thank you so much for taking my and turning that into words. Exactly. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you exhausted? Or are you energized? Do you feel like you have some sense of balance and connection and support? Where are you feeling on those types of words? How are you feeling? Are you tired or are you rested? Have you had a time off lately? Have you called your family lately? Have you done the things that make you happy? Have you worked out lately? If you love cooking, have you cooked lately? Like those kinds of things. Like it's not I don't have a perfect scale on this, but those are the kinds of questions to ask. And another really good one is just to say, is what I'm doing sustainable? Yeah. Could I do this for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
10 years? And if you're in a sprint, the answer is no, right? none of us could have newborns for 20 years. And if you're in a marathon, then you're probably got that balance right because it's sustainable, because it's going to be longer. So those are some questions to really think about yourself. Could I continue to do this for the next 5 years and 10 years? And if the answer is no, then you're probably in a sprint.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that we don't recognize that we're in sprints, and we build habits in sprints that then just continue on, and we persist them into the marathon. So maybe you're in a sprint and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to get takeout. I'm just going to eat pizza. Cause sometimes you're just like, I just need to eat the pizza, or I just need to put the movies on for my kids to get through this, or I just need to work after hours to get this done, or I need to be up early working this. But the problem becomes when we take those habits and put them into our whole life.
Yes.
So if you know that you are in another way to think about this too is like sprint or marathon or season or setup.
Yeah.
So if you're in a season or a sprint, you got to put an end to it. You got to figure out what is the sprint like. And I don't mean like you have to end it today, but I mean, you have to recognize when is the sprint going to be over, and have either like tangible, whether it's tangible milestones. It's like, okay, I'm going to sprint to get my website completed, or I'm going to sprint to create all the content for my course, or I'm going to sprint to get my podcast. I'm going to have 8 episodes ready before I launch my podcast. Like that's an example. Maybe there's milestones, or maybe there's a timeline. Maybe it's like after this sale or after this launch, then is my timeline. But you got to figure out what is the definitive end to that sprint. So whether it's dates or milestones, and then you also have to identify like, what are the habits that I'm going to have to drop? What are the habits that I'm doing, the things that I'm doing in this sprint to get me through the sprint that are okay for the sprint, but that are not going to work for me in a marathon? So for me, some of those things have been, I used to, when I was sprinting a marathon, because I've done this, so I know this, because I've made the mistakes. I used to put my daughter to bed for a nap, go right to my laptop.
Yeah.
I used to put my daughter to sleep, go right to my laptop. And that was, a sprint, but it was something that I kind of continued on. And so I had to realize, okay, if I'm going to actually marathon this, I cannot be logging into my laptop every time my child goes down to sleep. I also need sleep. I also need to shower, all those things.
It's the same. And that is chef's kiss gold, because that we talk about balance and self-care and routine, and I'm a big morning routine person, but when I'm in a sprint, I will literally get out of bed, pop in the shower, sit at my computer, nothing else exists. And I used to really beat myself up for that. Oh, you should be getting your exercise and you're meditating. And it's like my brain, it needs to come out. I need to work on whatever it is that I'm working on. I find that the meditating and the walking is more stressful, but it's about the container. I know this is a very short period of time for this sprint. It might be a week, it might be 2, maybe it's a whole month, right? Whatever that is for you, whatever it is for me, but it's letting go of the need to be in a rigid routine during our marathon habits. Sometimes we have to switch up our routine for our sprint and have those specific habits, but they are different, and you are where you are. There's no feeling bad or pressure like you have to be in one or the other. Like wherever you're at, but recognize it. And for heaven's sakes, if you're in a sprint, don't live your life that way once you get into marathon mode, because you'll burn out, you'll be done.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've been in real time navigating with solo parenting in a pandemic and growing our businesses. And I've realized that the setup, so a marathon of parenting, of solo parenting, of building a business, it feels like a sprint when those are things I'm not willing to adjust on. And so that means, this is other questions you can ask yourself. If you're in what should be a marathon, but it feels like a friggin' sprint, you got to say, like, what needs to change?
Yes.
What is the support that I need? What do I need to stop doing? What does it look like for self-care, for rest? Support is probably like one of the biggest ones. And also, like, are there timelines that I can extend? Are there some things that are negotiable? Like, what are the things that I'm willing to not do or can take a pause on? And what are the things that I cannot pause on? And those are the kinds of things that I've had to ask myself, because a lot of the things that I had going on, they're marathons, and I felt like I was sprinting around. So that is what led to, over the last year, over time, starting for, in our home life, solo parenting, starting to get some pre-made meals delivered to the house so that I don't have to be cooking every single meal all the time by myself. And starting to have a cleaner come in and support us with that, even just twice a month. So it's like, that gives me back some of that time and space. It means looking at my team and getting more support from them. It means some things are not happening. It means I'm not I took a couple months off of my podcast because I knew there was other things that needed to happen. And I did not have the capacity. And in order to continue on this marathon, I needed to treat it that way and actually take some time off, say no to some things to get the support that I needed. So I think it's like, those are the questions and the tools I think that can really help anybody try to navigate this of understanding, is it a sprint? Is it a marathon? Are you trying to sprint a marathon? Because I've been there. We've all been there. And just recognizing like how to shift out of that, if you're in a sprint it, rock it, and know when it ends. And if you're in a marathon, build yourself for the marathon, give yourself the time and the space.
Yeah. The extending the deadlines thing is one of the things that people never consider.
Right?
We're starting to wake up to getting support, outsourcing, not doing things. But I think people often think that they have to choose between doing something and not doing something. It's like, or extend the timeline.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. And I just want to say two more things, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one more thing, just on the outsourcing thing. I want to say this because I think it's very easy. And I would have even thought this too, to be like, yeah, but like, I can't afford it. And I want to recognize that, like, if you cannot pay your bills, if you cannot pay your mortgage, your rent, your food, yes, those are the important things. Like, take care of your family. But I know for myself, there was also a lot of stories about what I could or couldn't afford and what I could or couldn't do. And even like what it said about me as a mom. Was I like as good of a mom? Was I good of a wife? Was I good of a business owner? If like I had other people doing all these things, there's a lot of stories there. And when I actually was able to look at the budget and be like, what does this look like? And, for example, the pre-made meals, it was because I was ordering in a lot of the time because I didn't have time. It's not like I was magically had all this time. Then all of a sudden I didn't. Like, I was still finding ways to like kind of like limp along in life and make all these things work. When I actually looked at it, it was maybe an extra $200 a month to get some pre-made meals. Like, it was not a life-changing amount of money. And I know I recognize the privilege. I recognize for some people that is, I'm not saying that, but I want to say that I felt that barrier. I felt like I couldn't afford it. But when I actually looked at my budget and said, could we do a little less of this and make this a priority? The answer was yes. And same thing with hiring cleaning support. It was like, okay, well, maybe I can get my hair done a little less often because right now that's just not what I need. Or maybe I can it's been a pandemic too. I'm like, who needs new pants? Who needs pants ever again? Who needs pants? Not me. I'm like, I can
no pants over here. Okay.
No pants. Yeah. Like, I could probably suffer through some less nice pants because no one's seeing that and get the support. So I just wanted to share that because I think that was a big barrier for me, and I had a lot of resistance. And this is where, again, like, taking it off the mixtape and writing it down, I could actually see it and be like, yeah, I can find a way to make this happen.
Well, and that's a really good point, as well as you talked about how sometimes it's not about just finding the money or having the money. Sometimes it's about diverting the money from one thing to another. And I think that's something that especially bootstrapping entrepreneurs can relate to, is deciding what you're going to sacrifice in order to have that money for your business or for other things. And exactly, it's like making that list, getting off the tape, making the list. What do I need? How can I get it? Where can I make sacrifices? Where can I ask for support? And the outsourcing thing, it doesn't, like you say, it could just be having somebody come do your laundry or come clean, or just take something off of your plate so that you have more capacity to do what you want to do. And I think that's so important. It's like, what do I need? But also that, what do I want to do? Or what do I need to be doing right now? And so where can I free up time or energy or capacity? Right. And it's that, what do I need? What do I need to do? Then how do I support that and find the support? And we talked a bit about this in the podcast as well, which is get creative with how that support comes. It doesn't have to always come directly from your pocketbook.
Yeah. Go listen to the episode because Lindsay has some great ideas on that.
Yeah. Yeah. We both do. We're so brilliant. We've got it all figured out. You said you had one more thing you wanted to share. Hit us with it.
Yeah. So, okay. So kind of to wrap up this whole sprint marathon thing, a couple things I think are also really helpful, like tangible things that people can do. One, like, start to pay attention to your rhythms of your life and yourself. So, for example, what it like days, you said you love your morning routines. I'm not a morning person. I know later in the day I'm better later versus earlier. So like start to pay attention to that. Now, what about weeks? What, like, are you more productive on like a Tuesday, Wednesday? Are you more of like at the end of the week? It's like, oh, I got to do this so I can go to the beach on Friday night. Like, what are your rhythms of the week? What about over the month? And, as women, there's different conversations around that too. Even like, then in a year, like, what does that look like in your family? As an example, like, and your business, right? So is there a certain time of year you always go to like a family cabin, or are you guys more of like a ski family versus a beach family? Or like, what are those kind of rhythms in both your business and your life? When are people's, birthdays in your family, or like what are the things like that kind of anchor your year? And pay attention to kind of those rhythms too, because that can guide just like how you either structure your sprint, or how you get yourself out of sprints, or how you like when some of those sprints might be. And even matching up to like, okay, well, I know that I have better energy on these days, so that's when I'm going to do a bit more sprinting, or I'll have longer days. Or this is the time of year, I'll give you an example. In my business, goal setting, the kind of November, December, January is typically really busy. Was also Christmas. It's also, our business year end financially. And so we're actually trying to move all that, because we realized that was too many things all at once and wasn't working. And so we need to separate that out, get more support, and just be aware of that, recognizing that that is a sprint season. So now I have to look and say, when I'm not in one of those things, how do I support myself?
Yeah.
So maybe for you, that's like, on a weekly basis, maybe it's like Mondays are my chill day, or mornings are my chill time, or weekends are my chill time. On like a monthly basis, it's like maybe I take an extra Friday off a month. On a yearly basis, maybe like for me, it's like, okay, I take a little bit more time off in the summer, and then sprint a little bit harder in that busy season. So advanced time off planning is kind of another little piece there too, or
Yes.
advanced sprint planning, if you will. And the last thing I'll say is weekly planning. I am such a big advocate for weekly planning, because I believe that it just helps take all the things that we got going on, all the things we could be doing, should be doing, wish we were doing, and actually ground it down and like, what am I going to do this week? And also face reality with what's my capacity? What else do I have on the go? And that's just a great way to also, I build in with my weekly planning, I build in the self-care, I build in like, what are the things that I need? And if I don't have time for that, I then have to reassess and be like, is this a sprint? Oh no, it's not a sprint, Lisa. So some of those things have to come off. You need some downtime.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful. And I do have a weekly planner that you can grab. I think we'll link below.
We'll
It's
put it in
fire
the
up
link
your
below.
week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Allows you to reflect on last week. That's what I always like to do. Like what worked, what didn't, and then like what's ahead for this week. And it's even just the pause, even just the check-in is so powerful, because so often we're how many times can we say sprint in one YouTube video? But like we're sprinting like our to-do list, like from last week to next week, and keep going, as opposed to really being like, okay, pause. Where am I at now? What's important now? So that's what I want to say on that.
The things that you touched on for entrepreneurs who are less than a year, less than 2, less than 3 years in, understand that Lisa and myself, we've been at this for multiple years. So we know our business cycles, we know our business seasons, we know when like we know how to navigate a sprint versus a marathon, So don't think that you have to get it perfect, right? That you will get to know your business seasons and your personal seasons. I also like I'm like shameless plug. Lisa, I'm going to shamelessly plug mine. Grab yours so you can shamelessly plug yours too. Your planner.
Oh, all right. Shameless plug.
Right? Yeah. Right. Sexy. Because I also within this, it's different than Lisa's. They're very different. So I'll throw them both in the link, because probably both of them will be friggin' crucial for helping keep yourself. Because if you're an entrepreneur who is also a person outside their business, you are wearing so many hats and you have so many things to take care of and be aware of. So what I do in this planner here, this helps you track your business cycles every quarter, every month, every year. You're reflecting and you're starting to get an idea of, and you talked about this, what is working, what isn't working, what do you need to ditch, what do you need to extend, how are you feeling? And it is about paying attention, not getting so sucked into the little minutia and the little weeds, the details of your business and the day-to-day hustling and grinding of your business, but remembering to step back and go, how am I feeling? Where are my energy levels at? What's working for me? And what I loved about your weekly planner and the way that you said this, it's like the first thing you want to do is you want to think about, what are the things in my life, the non-negotiables that need to get put in here first? Then where are the priorities for my business? And where is there no room for anything else? Where am I being unrealistic with how much my capacity and how much time I have to do things? And stop, like you talked about the people pleasing and being all things to all people. And, we need to stop that. Get it out, because it's just going to burn you out. Right? I can tell you're getting excited. I'm going to stop. What do you want to say?
Oh no, I'm just cheering you on, because everything that you're saying, so good. And I think, like, go grab Lindsay's planner. That's an amazing tool. I didn't realize that that's what you did. Like, that's what all that was, but that's incredible, because you're right. It does take time to figure out those cycles.
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to that. Yes, everything you said.
Yeah. I'm like, we're saying the same thing. Listen, pay attention. But it is, there's a lot of talk, I feel like these days, maybe it's just my bubbles, on mindfulness and self-awareness and self-care, but that isn't done in a bubble as something, as another to-do list, as another, obligation. It really is tuning in, like you talked about for people who menstruate. You talked about tracking even tracking your cycles and where are your hormones at, and when you're most productive versus when you're maybe down, and how you stack your week during those weeks and during the month. There's so many things that you can do to support yourself, and this takes time. This is a part of the marathon to really support you as an entrepreneur and support the growth and profitability and enjoyment of your business.
Yes. So
like
good.
Mic drop.
So good. Exactly. That is the journey. Like, that's what we're figuring out. Then that takes time to figure out. So as you're figuring this out, just, last little compassionate reminder to be gentle with yourself, to recognize that it's okay if your morning routine doesn't look like Lindsay's, and if your night routine doesn't look like mine. It's okay if your seasons look different, if when you have energy is different than other people. It's okay if you need to take more time or less time. Just make sure that you're staying open, curious, compassionate towards that, and not judging yourself for what is coming up and what you are noticing. Just trust that you'll be able to find a way to make it possible to build a business and a life that works for what works for you.
Believe that it is possible for you to build a life and a business in a way that works for you. I'm putting that on a shirt. Lisa Michaud, Golden Girls, like, done. I love it. That is our mic drop moment right there. I love it. So
much mic dropping.
Right? All the mics, not these ones. They're very expensive, but well, like some like plastic
the foam ones.
Yeah. I'm sure your daughter has some toy ones we can
Oh no, she really likes this one.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's like when
Mommy,
you get,
I'm working. Mommy,
like
I'm
when
working.
You get kids that like the fake cell phones, and they're like, no, I know the difference, but give me your phone.
Yeah, give me the $1,200 iPhone. Yeah.
So I'm gonna put all the ways that you can connect with Lisa and check out her community and check out her planner and of course her podcast below. But Lisa, for folks that would love to know if they're the right person to come into your world, who's the right person to come into your world?
It's the right person if you know in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things I think as entrepreneurs, we try and figure this out, like, who is the right person? And so I've been doing a lot of, and this has taken a lot of time, guys. So it's taken a lot of time, but I've been having a lot of conversations with my clients, and like, how did you know? I'm like, okay, tell me, was it a certain post that you had, or a certain, did you see an advertisement? And what was it that told you right? And they all just say, like, I knew in my heart that I wanted to be in your circle. Like, I think, and we know this, right? People are either going to want our energy or they're not. And people are either going to be like, no, I want a perfect coach, and that's not me. Or they're going to be like, no, I want a coach who gets it and who is open to sharing the real and the struggle. And then that's going to be more your fit. So I think it's like just knowing in your heart, like, if there's something that's calling you, I think that says something. And it's women that know it, and then women that know that they are capable of more and want that support, want that guidance, want both the tangible tools and the space and community to feel supported in making it happen.
All the ways to connect with Lisa are below, as is our podcast link. So go and listen, because we get into it. We have some fun. Lisa shares some great stories. And other than that, friends, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us today. Lisa, thank you for bringing the light, bringing the joy and excitement.
Thank you for having me. This is always so much fun. And I already can't wait for the next one. I can't wait to listen to all of your amazing episodes.
Oh, me too. Me too. My podcast editor, my manager, Min Sukri, is busy away getting them all ready for y'all. So I just get to do the fun stuff. This is the outsourcing part. I get to do the fun stuff. Min, my miracle worker, is doing all the boring stuff that she loves. Everybody, thank you so much.
Community made.
Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Obviously, hit the bell so you're alerted when I drop new YouTube videos. And like this video, leave a comment below if anything that we said resonated with you. Happy connecting, everybody. I'll see y'all online.